Happy Friday, Bills Mafia. Welcome to another Friday night forecast here on the Cold Front Report. I'm your host, Travis Blakesley. Today, as always, we got the crew back, Mr. Herm the Buffalonian. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Herm. Nice to see you.
Hey, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Last day of 2021 and 2022 is going to be even better. We're going to rip off that Super Bowl.
There we go. Yeah, and we got quite a bit of viewers here. Thank you for joining us. As always, we got our friend Cody over here. How we doing, Cody?
Doing well. Back from COVID lockdown. So
I was gonna lead with Cody 19, but I don't know.
Okay.
Poor taste.
You're not gonna bother me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you all out there for joining us. Remember, like, share, subscribe. It helps get us recognized and find new fans out there. If you can't catch us live, search us on any social media platform or podcast service. Just search the Cold Front Report and look for the Friday Night Forecast. So before we get into this week's matchup, let's continue our bask in the glory of remaining on top of the AFC East, or reclaiming the AFC East. Fellas, was that Josh Allen's best game to date? Herm, I'll let you lead us off.
I think it was. I mean, he was outstanding, fantastic. I could think of a whole bunch of superlatives. He made plays when we had that plays made. That fourth and one play he made when they actually kind of looked like they had him in the backfield and the cornerback came up, looked like he was going to cut him. He made a nice move, but picked up the first down, hit Diggs on another fourth down play. So he looked really good. But I told another friend of mine, that I think since the second half of the Tampa game, that I think our offense is on the upswing. And, Josh is, of course, he's the captain of the ship. And I think he's got that ship humming pretty well right now. So I'm feeling good moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think most people agree with you as far as that Buccaneers game. I didn't like to say it because it just seemed a little too cliche. It was like, oh, they're getting beat down, and he rallied the boys back. Because at the end of the day, each game is its own, so it's hard to really take stuff. But it really take from one game to the next. But you look at the statistics and you just watch that offense, specifically in the play calling and execution category. You really notice it. And before I turn it over to you, Cody, Herm, I think we've seen better statistical games maybe, but I just think he was clearly the best player on that field, both teams, and it wasn't even close. I mean, I think he had like 90% of the offense, which we've seen a lot of the yardage come through him all year, but he really just put it all together, and in those clutch situations really made the play. Yeah. Cody, how do you feel do you think it was his best game to date?
I don't know if I would say it's his best game to date, but I think that there was just great symmetry on the field. I think Dable called a great game, and I think they executed the game plan to a T. Because I mean, a lot of times with Josh Allen, you see he's throwing the ball down the field. This really wasn't a game like that. I think what won the game and what people are applauding him for is the fact that he was able to go to the checkdowns. And I think that the way Dable schemed up Isaiah McKenzie with these cross routes and stuff like that, I just think that they put together a great game plan, and I think he executed it to a very high level. There was a couple passes I know he wanted back, and that one that was a near interception in the fourth quarter could have been terrible. So do I think it was his best game ever? I guess no, I don't. I can't point to another game where I go, oh, it was this game or that game. But I think he had a great execution of the game plan.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with the checkdowns. I believe that is the difference in the game. We've seen him make the flashy plays. We've seen him, put the team on his back and play quote unquote hero ball. We've seen him run the ball, but those checkdowns consistently, and they weren't last minute checkdowns where the running back was at the, the boundary or gave the chance for the linebackers to kind of cover that. They were still in their drops on a lot of these passes. They were early on, 2-3 seconds into the play where his first two guys were not open, and he dropped it down to Singletary. Singletary held onto the ball every time, which was great. And I really think that one run in the beginning, I know it wasn't a pass, but where he carried Duggar for 7-8 yards and got the first down, that really set the tone. Because how many times you see in games when you're not watching the Bills and you see somebody get up for a play like that, and it tells the story of the game. And I think the Bills as a whole really, not only did they outperform, but they wanted it more. It was similar to us versus Jacksonville, just unfortunately the other way around in that game, where it just looked like one team was on the up and up. And you brought up McKenzie, and I'll swing it back over to you, Herm. What a game by Isaiah McKenzie. Coming up big. We talked a lot about the depth. We knew that we were going to need certain players to step up. A lot of us thought would be Stephon Diggs to take the brunt of the load, but there's guys behind the number 2, the number 3 wide receivers in this core that needed to step up, and Isaiah McKenzie did in a big way. Herm, what did you think of this Isaiah McKenzie takeover?
Well, I remember at one point in the game when the statistics were, I think he had 7 catches all season, and then when he got to 7, and I was watching with a bunch of other Bills fans, and we were like, "Wow, you've already matched your season's output." And with a couple of tough catches, I think a comment the individuals I was watching the game with was, you remember when he was made inactive during the win game? I'll call it that one. That win game with the Patriots when they only passed 3 times. Remember, he was made inactive, and McDermott made the comment that he wanted somebody back there he could trust. And he took that personally because if I remember correctly, he had a great game at the last game of the season against Miami last year. But really for us, his only purpose was the jet sweeps and returns. So when he fumbled the return and kind of went on to the bad list with McDermott, or with any coach might look at it like that, especially you didn't get touched, you went down, you fumbled. I think he had a bone to pick, and he was outstanding. He made some contested catches, picked up some penalties, and he made a comment after the game that he felt really good because he knew Josh trusted him, which obviously he did. He had 11 catches, and he was, as Cody said, with the game plan, with Dable running him on those crossing routes, and the DB on him just couldn't cover him. And when we kept going there, in the third quarter, second half, it was impressive. I'm happy for him. And for me, it just adds another potential weapon to our receiving core, with Beasley and Davis coming back this weekend as well. And I think it bodes well for the future. But I'm really happy for him. He was outstanding.
He was. And speaking of that defender that you were speaking of that he abused, Miles Bryant, right. He was targeted. He was charged with 9 targets, 7 completions, 77 yards. Those over routes, he couldn't hang with them. And I just want to note that they did use him differently than they would Cole Beasley. So I don't think it's a 1-to-1 swap. Of course, you're going to get knee-jerk reactions where they're calling for Isaiah McKenzie to be the slot receiver, which I'm not saying he can't, but he adds a different aspect. Cole Beasley isn't a burner. He's that quick twitch separation, find the soft zone. And not that Isaiah McKenzie can't do that, but clearly we saw those over routes, those crossers where he was able to either beat his man straight up in man-to-man coverage or find that soft spot in the zone between the secondary and the linebacking core. He was great at. And, Cody, if there's anything left about McKenzie, just speak on it.
Yeah, no, I think you touched on it there. He's not Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley he's great in an RPO game. Break off a route where, like we just said, we've said it a few times already. They used McKenzie in an inline, using his inline speed there to go across the middle of the field, and it was just a totally different utilization of the player, and it just speaks so much, I think, moving forward, where you can have a different guy for a different role in this offense. And it just, it's just further evolving what we are. And And I'd like to see him on the field with Cole Beasley sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see where he is, but you know how it is. It's like if a guy is down and a guy comes up and plays great, it's like the backup quarterback.
It's the
thing,
Frank
you know?
Wright
Like, oh,
effect.
should he replace him? Yeah, like no, it's a different player. He has to do different things, but what a hell of a job he did.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because we have all three of us have mentioned we want to see more motion or moving the pocket. You know, we call that out. How many times did we see Dawson Knox stay in and they roll and move the pocket a little bit outside, which we haven't seen at all. But I do agree. He's the type of guy where, let's say you don't have a running back in the formation, you could still roll him and keep him in the backfield. And we see them do a lot of that, a lot of window dressing, whether it's that pop pass or it's a straight up reverse. I mean, he had a couple rushes too. I don't know if they counted them as passes or not, where he got the sticks. Herm, did you have anything else to say regarding Beasley? Or excuse me, Mackenzie?
No, I think you guys hit on the head that, I mean, there was online, as Cody was saying, the backup is always the most popular guy in town when he has a great game. And, and depending, I mean, even if the person's injured or for whatever reason, this case because of COVID, and they have a great game, now you get the clamor, oh, yeah, should be starting. No, they're different players. He said it best. They play different roles. But I think it would be a great idea if you're playing them both at the same time because they bring different things to the table. Right. You know, his speed, as you said, Travis. I mean, with Brian, he outran him just coming across the field. He gave Josh some good targets because you just outran him over the top. You had to respect his speed, but Cole is the type that goes in there, finds a nice soft spot, sits down, and gives him a nice target there to pick up a first down, to pick up 7-8 yards, 10 or 11, whatever is needed. So to me, it was a breath of fresh air. And as I said, I'm happy for him because after being benched, and that's when you're made inactive, that's basically what happened. You got benched because of the fumble in the game prior to him being made inactive, to come back. And he had a great attitude about it from, everything I've read. He kept playing. You came out there and you did his thing. So I'm happy. 11 catches was it's a great day.
It's very good to see. Obviously, Josh Allen gets all the glory. Games like these, Mackenzie's that outlier where everyone is looking for.
We're getting a lot of feedback from you, Trav.
Yeah.
Oh. Give me a sec. Herm, why don't you talk on the offensive line while I get this figured out?
Okay. All right. Well, hey, the offensive line, I think they deserve the game ball. No sacks. They gave him time on the touchdown to Mackenzie. Remember, that was one, this season, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that was one of the longest times Josh had to sit back there and survey the field, pick out before he delivered. He delivered a strike, which is him, but he had enough time. And, he was under duress a couple of times, but did nothing like any of the other games that we saw. So most of the season. I was really, Pace played well. Bates, excuse me. I wasn't thinking Orlando Pace. Bates, Bates has been a whipping boy. But I think overall he played well. Dawkins, Judah was pretty much, he was neutralized in his pass rush. So that was one of the best pass rushing offensive line, their performances I've gotten to see this season. So I hope they can replicate that moving forward, because if we do that, our offense becomes extremely, extremely tough.
All right, how are we sounding over here?
Yeah, you're good.
You're sounding good. A little low. You're a little low.
All right.
Okay.
All right. We'll figure it out as we go. We're back. I wanted to mention that I think that they were the star of the show. Like you said, like I was saying earlier, Allen's always going to get the glory, but they were the X factor. We all knew with having guys down that, the depth of an already struggling offensive line was going to be the key. And boy, did they step it up. It was unbelievable to see no sacks given up. Again, another weird stat. The first time in a Belichick era where somebody throws 45 times and they don't give up a sack or throw an interception.
Yeah.
Add another crazy stat to the list. Cody, what did you what did you like most out of this performance from the offensive line?
Well, I think, and we started off with Josh Allen and giving him all the praise, and that's another thing that works into this. Is the offensive line kept him upright all game.
Yep.
So when you have time back there, when you have a talented guy like Josh, you're gonna be able to pick your spots. And like Herm said on that McKenzie touchdown, that's the fourth read. Maybe even cycled back twice. I don't even know what it was. But it was just incredible to see Bates playing right guard, then left guard, and Darrell Williams right guard, then right tackle, and Spencer jumping. To be able to have guys that are versatile enough and to play that many positions in one game and to give up 0 sacks and they did pretty good rushing the football as well. I mean, the numbers aren't crazy, but it was probably the best that we've seen that team cohesively play, which was very surprising, being that Dawkins, another one, being out on COVID and coming back the day before. I'm sure he didn't feel 100%. So it was pretty crazy. It was probably what I least expected, but it turned out awesome. So it kind of leaves us a predicament going forward. I know a lot of people are going to clamor now for Ryan Bates to play and start. I know Feliciano came back today. Is he going to be healthy enough to play? We'll see. But it's nice to see that we have some depth there.
Yeah, and bringing up Bates, you can't miss out the fact that we lose Bacher for a year, and going into next year, I mean, he's not a spring chicken, and Achilles injuries are tough to come back from. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays out going forward, just his career wise. Some guys don't come back, and when they do, they're not the same. So it was tough to lose Ike Bacher, but it was good to see the musical chairs and Dawkins. Although, like you mentioned, there was a reason why he wasn't starting, and it probably had a lot to do with missing practice and not being involved in the game plan outside of, sitting on a tablet or whatever from home. But he didn't miss a step. Like you mentioned, Judon didn't do anything. I mean, it was no surprise that he ended up on the COVID report the next day, because he looked like he was playing with something. You didn't get much. You didn't get anything out of him. Like I mentioned on the post game, the only thing we saw out of him was tripping Allen on the sideline that one time.
Yeah.
But
it was good to chasing the play the whole game, like a step behind.
Yeah.
So it was impressive to see, because we have talked so much about the lack of consistency of this offensive line. We know they're not physical, but when you are getting beat mentally by not reading your keys properly, or not switching when guys are stunting, it was tough. And that was, the centerpiece of all of our losses, pretty much starting from week 1. So it was good to see them get a big win there. Hopefully we can see it continue forward. The defense as a whole, we'll move on to the defense. They played well, pretty much status quo as we've seen all year round. We did speak about the defensive line. But Herm, how, if you were to grade this performance, it's hard to do, but if you were, how would you grade this performance, and is it good enough
on the defense as a whole?
The defensive line.
The line. Well, I thought I would grade them a B, because one thing I liked was that first drive when second down, we put pressure on Mac Jones. He threw the ball. It actually hit one of our defenders. And then the third down, we got the sack. So it kind of set the tone, 3 and out, and we sacked him on the first series. So I always feel like that plants a seed right there. And I think that was Ed Oliver, right, that got that sack on that first drive, right? So the running game, I mean, we gave up 108 yards with it seems almost, what he had a 47 run, a 41-yard run in that 108. Otherwise they played pretty well, and they put once again, we reached the point though where when we're rushing forward, when we were blitzing, we moved Mac Jones. When we rush forward, we don't put enough pressure on the quarter. We gave him. He didn't look good. His numbers weren't good ultimately at the end of the game, but he still had more time than I would like if I were defensive coordinator or as a fan. So that part right there, I'd give them a B overall because they maintained. They didn't allow them really to. There were a couple times they got outside. We lost outside leverage, but overall, on the touchdown pass to the running back, I feel like our defensive ends just sometimes, and they're young, other than Jerry Hughes, obviously, and they didn't maintain their edge presence and allowed them to get out. But overall, I mean, I can't say I was unhappy just because overall the defense played well.
Yeah, that one outside run, the first touchdown. I mean, Obata, it shows that he's a guy who didn't grow up playing football because that is a complete instinctual type play.
Yeah.
It's very easy, these guys get fooled on that all the time in college and whatnot, but in the NFL, I mean, it shows, and kudos to the Patriots for realizing that they're not going to outflank our defense, so they have to, just manufacture these plays where you get your eyes going one way and then you run the other way. Cody, what would you grade the defensive line, and what did you see coming from this unit against the Patriots?
I'd give him a solid B as well. I think it was Kenny that mentioned in there is no outside pressure from this team.
Right.
We don't have that guy, and it's getting kind of tiring to watch. Ed Oliver popped. I thought he had a good game. Outside of the sack, he was in the backfield all the time. His first step is very, dare I say, Marcel Darius first step type. But
I mean, there was a still shot where the ball was snapped and it was like halfway between the center's ass and Mac Jones. No one on our defensive line is out of their stance, but Ed Oliver's like 2 yards, or like 2 steps behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and he had a presence the entire game, but I think if you take him away, you didn't really do anything there, they had a good rushing day. They what's his face put up stats, and they were never. I don't think that we ever felt like this game's getting away from us on the defensive side of the football, but they also don't make any real splash plays over there. I thought the gap integrity was better than the first time they played,
right.
And the linebackers had a solid day. I just don't think that you have. It's like we said last time, right? We're talking about rotational players, and I think a lot of these guys are exactly that, unfortunately. And it's pretty glaring that we need a pass rusher.
The problem with it being rotational players is all the money and draft capital that you invested. I would be fine with this defensive line outside of the fact that how many high draft picks have we used, and maybe draft or money capital to acquire some of these guys. So, if it's just like our offense where we don't have any number one draft picks, that's fine. You get what you get, but the fact that you invest so much, it's kind of it seems like it's diminishing returns. And I mean, how many times are we going to try to flip these tires to get it right?
Right. Yeah. And we talk about it all the time. We're talking to each other during the game. When they sit back and they just try to rush forward, it never gets there, right? They have to generate some kind of pass rush with Hyde coming off or Milano shooting the gap. They try to every once in a while with Edmonds, doesn't ever seem to get there, right? He always gets swallowed up. He's a terrible blitzer, in my opinion. But it's unless they're manufacturing or doing some kind of blitz, it doesn't ever seem to get there.
Right.
And it's just when you're playing a team like that has a Mac Jones, who's a rookie, doesn't have great outside weapons, I think you can get away with it. It still worries me going forward if we're playing the Chiefs or a high potent offense like that with a great quarterback. I just don't think they're getting the job done.
Right. And let me reiterate, Trav, one thing you just said about the line. in payroll. Statistically, we have the most money in the league invested in defensive linemen, which
Right.
Doesn't look like
as
it.
you said, return on investment there. That Cody said we communicate during the game, and sometimes it's just like an effort and futility when we rush 4 men. It's Cody's right with Mac Jones and no weapons on the outside. Even, I mean, looking at this week's game, Matt Ryan can throw the ball. He still can throw the ball, and he's got a couple of good, so we need a pass rush, but we'll get there in this conversation later.
Yeah, and just to put a pin in it, you're the financial guy. You put it right there where you're not getting what you put in, and I think they're average at best when they have their best pass rushers out in the field. You got your Ed Oliver, you got a Rousseau or a Hughes, and it's okay. Sometimes you get pressure, you don't necessarily get the sack, but there's times where you have 4 rotational guys out there. I mean, you have Obata on the edge on a first down. You got Vernon Butler out there. Harrison Phillips has been very good as of late, especially in the run, but you can only ask so much for him to get pressure. And then, it's just I think that the rotation is kind of hurting the top end talent on this team. Like, I get it in certain situations, find a place in the third quarter where your guys need a blow for a drive or so, and then keep it that way. But it just doesn't seem like it's working as intended.
If we have the talent.
Yeah, well, that's, I'm still hoping we do, because like we just mentioned a bunch of times, if we've invested so much to get so little, it's, that's something you got to look at, whether it's the scouts or just the philosophy in general when it comes to drafting these guys. But let's wrap up last week and get into this week. So the weather report, it's looking mighty Buffalo out there. 1 to 3 inches, around 30 degrees. So we all know that. I think that Colts game, they weren't predicting very much snow, and then they dumped a 1.5 feet throughout the game. But we're gonna get some Buffalo weather, which, hey, as long as it's not 40-mile-an-hour winds, I'll take it. I think that's where we're at with this team.
Yeah, they're saying 11-mile-an-hour winds. It's going to be cold, but not. I mean, I think the conditions should be good for football.
Correct.
You got artificial turf, so it's nothing like that Monday night game. I was on the phone with the Buffalonians today, so their weather pretty much has been kind of like ours the last few for the last few days of
mild,
December.
Right?
It's been very mild, very mild.
Yeah. So getting into the Bills currently, like we mentioned Isaiah McKenzie a little bit, the wide receiver depth has stepped up. We saw Kumro get loose a little bit in the end zone, couldn't secure that catch. It was close. I think it was a bit overthrown, but he squeezed it. It looked like he squeezed it a little too much going down. But like we mentioned, McKenzie went off. The wide receiver depth has stepped up. Cody, how do you see this offense? How do you see? Do you think this is going to be harmful for Dable, because we've seen him try to do a little too much with what he has, or do you think this is going to make his job easier?
No, I don't think that he would ever say having too much talent is a bad thing. I think it allows us to be, game day specific. Having McKenzie in this role, like we said before, is very different than Beasley. It was great against New England, where they play a cover one with a single man, and we did a lot of vertical routes, and he was able to cross and get in the spots, and that's great. Going against a Falcons team, being able to scheme up for what they do using different players is just a luxury that we're lucky to have now. So, I mean, there's only one football. Guys don't want the rock, but I think it's a great thing to have. I mean, who would want less talent, right? So, I think that you guys mentioned it, since that Buccaneers game in the second half, there's definitely been a change. And I think they're finding their identity more. And I think this team seems so much more in lockstep. Even the way the offensive line performed, I think there's an identity, at least like internally, And I think going forward, you're going to see this offense clicking no matter who's on the field.
I agree. Herm, what would you like to add to the wide receiver depth stepping up recently?
No, I'm totally on board with Cody there, because I'm of the school of thought, the more talent, the better. It just gives you, from a Dable's standpoint, or the coordinator or play caller, it just gives you more options. And defensively, it gives the defense a lot of other things to be concerned with, because, obviously Diggs is the number one concern for any team that plays us. And now, after Gabe Davis had he had a fantastic game before he went out with COVID. Cole Beasley, Beasley still got about 67 catches or something like that this season, so he's there. And then McKenzie last week, he has to pay attention, and then Knox. So, and the running backs, as you guys pointed out earlier, and which was one of the more impressive things of the game last week, was remember Josh was just hitting, like you said, he was taking what you were giving. You're hitting the running backs, and they're plowing ahead for 8, 9, first down, 7 yards. Pick up 7 yards on first down. How rare was that for us? We weren't getting it in the running game, but if you give it to the running back on the 3-yard pass, and Singletary ran hard. I mean, he ran like a man possessed, as you said, from that first run he had where he carried the guy. And then when he caught the ball, Moss, when they were catching 3-yard passes in. So, and they were moving the pile. So, wide receiver wise, yeah. I mean, the more weapons, to me, the better. And I think as a group, if you want to win, as Cody said, there's only one rock. If you want to win, everybody's moment will come, and you just got to be ready when that moment comes.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that these guys don't mind that at all. I mean, when you have Stephon Diggs, really, I mean, it's very undervalued, the transformation he has done as a person. Where he's come from in Minnesota. You may get a total different guy coming out of that 2-game skid, and just instead of being upset, you saw him after each one of these losses being a key contributor when it comes to the leadership and getting these guys up. You don't see these guys pouting, you don't see them complaining. So I think it really just comes down to the fact that, okay, we can beat you in different ways. Identify it early on and attack it like we did with McKenzie. Right. Josh realized early on that when in doubt, you throw it to 19, crossing over some guy's face. And when we needed a big play, we went to either him or Diggs. And it was really good to see that. Now I just think we need to completely capitalize on those opportunities. Don't force feed guys, but realize that you're going to have a matchup. And if that just means Singletary out of the backfield for 3 yards in front of the line of scrimmage and him getting you 8 or 9 yards at a time, keep doing that until they decide to shut that down. And then you're going to leave that intermediate portion open. Cody, let's shift over to another topic that we've spoken to already. What is your top 5 offensive linemen? What do you see the Bills going with from here on out? Hopefully no injuries.
Yeah, I think this week we'll see if Feliciano's available. I mean, I know they activated him today, but he's been out for, 6-7 weeks or something like that. Yeah. So is he going to be the best person to put in that spot right now? I think if he's healthy, I think they'll go back to him. I think they like the versatility of Bates and being able to have him cover all their bases and have that guy on the bench that can jump off and play tackle or guard or probably even center. So I think, unfortunately, his versatility probably hurts him a little there. I think they'll if he's available, they'll plug him back. So it'll go Dawkins, Feliciano, Morse, and then Darrell Williams at guard and Spencer at right tackle there. I think that's what they'll do if they're able to.
Quick question. Do you think Bates has upgraded himself to being the first guy off the bench out before Cody Ford?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he jumped up and took that spot. You can't keep that off the field.
Yeah, and I didn't notice watching him once at all, and that's a good thing.
No,
My eye didn't go to him, so I could,
Yeah.
outside of rewatching it, I didn't notice him.
Right. And when I rewatched the tape on him, I thought actually the one thing I kept thinking was like, this guy's got a great anchor. He's not. They only list him at 302 or something like that, but he looks much bigger than that.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was every time because I kind of keyed on him, obviously, and I know we'd be talking about it. So yeah, he looks like he didn't look out of place, like you said.
Yeah. Herm, what's your ideal offensive line going forward?
Well, if Feliciano comes back, or you got Morris, Feliciano, Williams, Dawkins, I agree with Cody entirely that Bates has definitely placed himself ahead of Ford in my opinion. I mean, he played well. You made probably the best point. You didn't notice you didn't notice him. There was no holding, no penalties. And they moved him around, as Cody said earlier in the conversation. So his versatility, which it is tough on the offensive line. Guard, tackle, this left side, right side. So he's hopefully this is it's not a flash in the pan. Not a 1 week. I mean, because you played the Patriots, so it's not like you played a squad that doesn't have a formidable defensive line either. So, right. I'm just to say this too. It was unfortunate. I felt horrible for Butker. It's just, I mean, it's what a non-contact. If we remember that play, right? Another non-contact. Yeah. And and then I'm watching the game with the guys, and with the non-contact injuries are like. It's the worst when like Trey White, when something happens, it wasn't at a point of contact or something like that. So, but the combination, I like, right now I'd say to me, Dawkins, Williams, obviously Mitch Morse, our big boy, and Feliciano, if he's back and he's ready. I mean, because as Cody said, he's been out for a while now. So also his conditioning and is he ready to play?
Yeah.
But if not, I do really feel good about Bates being coming in off that bench. So
I do think that they might try to get Feliciano in on a rep count, maybe give him a couple series this week. That would be my guess. I think you'll see both of them play, Bates and Feliciano.
Yeah.
So. I feel like they're gonna give Bates the opportunity to earn it or lose it. I think with Feliciano, kind of, like you mentioned, he's been out a lot outside of COVID. I mean, he's been battling injury for most of the season. He's been in and out of lineup a lot.
Right.
And he offers the same flexibility as Feliciano, which is good. He's a guy who can play center. He can play guard. The only thing, I mean, Bates is that weird, he can play tackle too, which is, you don't get many guys who can do all three. So I think they're going to roll with him. And, if he can, because I believe that the offensive line is all about, symmetry, just getting those reps and really, especially when you're pass blocking, knowing what you're supposed to be doing, knowing your assignment. So I think if they can get that symmetry and, just really be on the same page, I think they're not going to go out of their way to fix that. But if we have any mishaps and you got a guy like Feliciano who can come right in, I think it's pretty obvious that Darrell Williams' spot is that right guard. Things go a lot better when he's playing guard. And it's amazing to see. I get it. You're using your whole other side of your body, but just the difference between Spencer Brown on the left side versus Spencer Brown on the right side.
Yeah.
He was back to his old self. You didn't even notice him. And really the only guy you ever notice is Deion Dawkins, because he's pancaking guys after he bulldozes somebody else. You see him downfield, and I'm always worried that either him or Spencer Brown are going to get a flag for just goring some defender and removing the pile or something.
Is that not the dumbest penalty in the NFL? Illegal man downfield.
That was. I mean, listen, it was tough, but it was warranted because unfortunately, he didn't get the check out of the run play because you see him go to block the linebacker, and the linebacker just floats away from him. And he's probably like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame because it didn't really. I mean, I get it. I think
it didn't impact the play,
it should,
right?
Exactly. It should be called if you know you're blocking a guy who's trying to drop back and defend a pass, but you know the rules are the rules, and you got to know what you're doing. So he kind of stuck out like a sore thumb on that play. But moving on, nothing really to do about the depth, but something that has been talked about a lot. Do you think the Bills have kind of found the solution? They've tried stopping run first teams. They've tried a couple different things. I liked what they did this week, where you saw a lot more traditional 4-3, and then when they brought in that extra offensive lineman as a blocker, you actually saw Saran Neal come play the short side of the field, the where he would be. So you got a guy with a little bit more girth, a little bit more of a nose for the ball. I'll pitch it over to you, Cody. Do you think the Bills have kind of found that way to defend these teams? Because we're going to see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think they know what they're doing. This isn't, but you know, the Patriots don't have Jonathan Taylor. So we'll see when we have that next big challenge. The gap integrity was much better in this game, and the linebackers didn't get swallowed up, and they were able to actually make tackles. And I think that was the biggest thing. You know, I like to throw Edmonds under the bus a lot of times for not being able to disengage. And I thought he had a solid game in that department. Didn't like him blitzing because it didn't work, but I think it's just guys doing their job. I don't want to keep circling back and saying how like something changed in this team, but something has definitely changed over the last couple of weeks where you can pick out individual position groups and see that they're just playing better together. And I mean, Ed Oliver had a hell of a game. Harrison Phillips has been great against the run. And I think with those two guys playing at a high level, it just lifts everybody up around them. So yeah, I think they're kind of learning on the fly. It's gotten better. I don't care what their stats were. They weren't running over us. And going forward, I do want to see what it looks like when we're playing, a top 5 running back.
Yeah, a lot of people go to the numbers over another 100-yard rusher, but if you're giving up 150 yards through the air, what do you expect? I mean, you're holding the team to 300 total yards under that. It really, at the end of the day, if you're going to choose to run the ball in the NFL and that's your go-to, I think you got to welcome it, as long as you don't play like you did against the Colts that one game. Like, they didn't want to be out there. Herm, do you think the Bills found the solution on stopping run-first teams to at least be able to give themselves a shot?
Well, I mean, just to co-sign what Cody just said, I think as a group and the line itself, the front seven, the linemen and the linebackers are playing better together. Because in my analysis of the defensive line, when we've been run on in the Colt game and even early on with Derrick Henry, the big run in even the run he got, we've been overrunning so aggressive. We've overrun plays, which allowed if you get a great running back to cut back, okay, because you're hitting the hole and then they're cutting back and it's there. The gap is there. But I think right now, as Cody said, okay, Edmonds, Milano, the linebackers, even with Klein, they played well, but up front, their gap integrity, and Cody did use that phrase, which is they maintain that, which doesn't allow you to come back. I mean, many times. I mean, the edge rush, the rushing around the edge is a whole different ball game, because that's on our defensive ends to maintain the try and force the play back into the middle. We went field and we're too aggressive. You said Obata. I think it's just a lack of experience. I think he got hyped up after he got his couple of sacks in that Carolina game. And so that one there, he looked horrible and on that particular play. But I mean, he, he hasn't played football that long, but I think he'll come around. But as a unit, I'm in line with Cody right there. I feel just the eye test, they're playing better, but the true test will come when you play against a team that has a true run game. I mean, the Patriots do. The kid got I think 108 yards, but for the what was a 40-yard run or whatever his run was on that one big run, you end up with about 60 yards. But we can say that other than Jonathan Taylor because he gouged us for some, a big.
I'm sure you look at some of OJ's games, people would be saying that as well. If it wasn't for that 80-yard run.
Yeah,
we're good for one a game. It seems now a 140-yard rush.
Right. Oh. I agree with you, Cody. Which I don't like.
What we're not. You know what we're not good for a game that on the a 40-yard pass play. So I guess. In this,
we're number one in the league for giving up. The least amount of passes over 20 yards. You're right.
Yeah, so, it just never happens, and we get our full through the ground. But Jason Taylor. Not the player, but the fan, had a question. He was curious if we're rooting for Miami to win out. Fins beating Tennessee and the Patriots might knock out or one or both of them come for the playoffs. Honestly, I'm not really – I would just rather us get as high a seed as possible, but I would like both Miami and the Patriots to be – in the playoffs because those are teams that I'm willing to bet that we beat them again. I know they say you don't like to see a team a third time, but I would like to see Miami in Buffalo, in January. Yeah. And the Patriots, again, if it's not 40-mile-an-hour winds, they're not winning that game. So Cody, I'll go to you. Are you rooting for any of these guys to be in or out?
Yeah, I'm rooting for the Dolphins, actually. I do not fear the Dolphins one bit.
Right.
Watching that game against the State, they are terrible. Their offense doesn't scare me. I don't know who they play. They won all these games, and that's great. Yeah, it's
one team,
one week at a time. But
Baltimore. But I'm sure there was something COVID.
Yeah, Baltimore's down like 8. They're down 8 players. 8 starters.
I would love to see the Dolphins play the Bills in January in Buffalo. I would be so confident in that game. So yes. Give me the Dolphins.
Herm, you got any special rooting interests for the other rest of the AFC?
Yeah, I want the Dolphins to win, but anytime that we can knock out the Patriots and keep them out of the, I would love to play the Dolphins. As you said, they always say it's tough to beat a team 3 times, but the game Sunday when they won, it was 20-20. The game, like you said, Tua doesn't scare me. Their defense plays well, but my feeling on the Bills. We can outscore. We definitely can outscore.
We've run the gambit with the top defenses in the league already.
Yeah, exactly. But any odds of getting the Patriots out just on the personal level to take down Bill Belichick and how many 2 weeks ago they were going to the Super Bowl, if you remember watching all of the talking
Mac was
heads
the best quarterback in the AFC East.
Yeah, really, right.
You heard it there, man.
Yeah, he averaged 4.5 yards a throw.
He was like a deer in headlights.
Mac Jones is who we thought he was.
Yeah.
So let's get into Atlanta. We got a big time tight end, not really a tight end, more of a Jimmy Smith type slot, big guy. Plans for shutting down Pitts. Since Herm, I got you on the screen. How do you think we are slowly, I mentioned this a stat, but earlier in the week on Twitter, but we are one of the top teams in the league regarding defending tight ends. Last year was kind of a blip. We weren't as good, but the 2 years prior, we were great. So how do you see Sean McDermott defense neutralizing a guy like Pitts?
Well, he's I think around 40 yards short of 1,000 yards. So correct. He's been catching the ball and obviously putting up some numbers. He's 6'6", 4'4", 40. To me, maybe I'm going back a little bit before you guys. It reminds me of the guy Kellen Winslow with the Chargers. Senior, exactly.
Yeah, junior, we met him a couple months ago.
Okay, yeah, Junior's in jail right now, I think, right? He was on his way. But But no, he's 7-foot wingspan, 4'4", a super duper athlete. So that should be our main concentration, and that's going to come. I don't know who we're going to put on him or who we play, but the safeties also will come into play there. Cordell Patterson, who they use as a running back / wide receiver / kick returner / he's their
Slash.
he's exactly right. He's their Swiss knife, player. But
he's a late bloomer, 30 years old, best season of his career.
Yeah. I mean, well, he was with Minnesota, right? He was,
he's from New England too. I mean, he's jumped.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. He was with the Pats, but taking Pitts away from the game. I mean, obviously, if he's approaching 1,000 yards as a receiver, as a rookie, he's a phenomenal athletic talent, and if we take him away from Matt Ryan, and then because with Ridley being gone all year or not having his personal issues, not playing, they don't really pose much of a threat. They're 20, I think, if they're 28th in offense in the league, if I'm off the top of my head, if I'm reading their stats, they're offensively not a juggernaut. So
they're 28 points for 20 or 25th points for 25th yards.
Yeah, 25th. Yeah. So they're but my fear is that coming off the Patriot game, where the players, our team, I mean, that was on the calendar, especially after the debacle on that the win game, I'll call that, the one in Buffalo, that the team, I don't think they're going to let down, because we got 2 games left and we need both of them. And also, just to get on, as Cody was saying, and I think we all agree that since that second half of the Tampa Bay game, looks like things are coming together at a nice time, because everybody, I've been reading a lot. They talk about Gage and Zacharias. Don't worry me, Herm. No.
Don't worry.
I'll answer that one, Katie. No. But since it popped on the screen, no. On me personally, we'll go to the other guys, but me, no. Pitts is the biggest worry, because he can do some damage. He's big, he's fast, and that has been Matt Ryan's favorite receiver and his most effective receiver. But no, I don't fear really too many. Offensively, as we just said, they're 25th in the league in offense. So whichever the coach says you are, what your record says you are. But let's hope we can maintain that 25th status for them at the end of the day on Sunday.
Yeah, Cody, I think we've already spent too much time on them as it is. They don't deserve the shot, but either of these 2 guys, Pitts or Cordero Patterson, spark any fear in your heart in this upcoming matchup?
Well, they're both 2 tremendous athletes, and that is their entire offense, because I don't know if it's Kenny or who suggested Gage. He's a decent player, but the drop off from Pitts, who is almost at 1,000 yards. I think the next highest receiver doesn't even have 600.
Right.
The next leading receiver is Cordell Patterson.
Right. And basically, and it was brought up on the screen too, Kyle Pitts only has 1 touchdown.
So they're not utilizing him.
No, they're not using him in the red zone or what. Right. I went back and watched this game, but that's the only game I watched of the Falcons, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever. But it's not a bad team. It's a 7-win team. We're not talking about a team that's in the doldrums here, but Cordell Patterson does have 11 touchdowns. So yeah, that's going to be our main key. I think that we have it won't be like a matchup. It'll be a collective thing, shutting down Pitts, because they move him all over. He'll be outside. He'll play boundary. He'll play slot. He's not much of a blocker there, so I'm not going to be worrying about blocking. But those are the 2 guys that we're going to be keying on. I think you have to worry about them, of course. I just don't think that Atlanta has enough on offense to get the job done.
Yeah, and for me, it's less about those guys, more about the guy who has to get them the ball. Matt Ryan, Herm, I'll go to you. Do you think this guy can get it done anymore? Because every time I flip on Atlanta game, he's getting sacked in the red zone on third down, or he's throwing an interception.
Well, he's got 3,500 yards passing this year, so he's still throwing the ball. Yeah, and I've gone game by game on the statistics. He's had a couple of really good games, but somebody made a comment earlier this week. I was watching some of the talking heads that Atlanta may be the worst 7-win team that they've ever seen.
It reminds me of a Buffalo team during like the Dick Duran era.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just to go back to one of the points we were talking about our defensive line with the 4-man rush. He goes down, but we need to be there. We need to put some pressure on him because Matt, he can still throw the ball. He's not. Ever since they lost the Super Bowl, they allowed the Patriots to come back. I don't think he's ever been the same quarterback. What was that, 4 or 5 years ago, in my opinion? And he's had some talent around him. I mean, you lost Julio, you had Ridley, so you've had some players down there and catch the ball. And you got Pitts now and Cordell Patterson. But if we put some pressure on him, and what we need to do is what we did, score early, force them. I mean, they don't run the ball well. That's another thing they're lacking on offense, which obviously if you're 25th in the league out of 32 teams, your offense is not that effective. So I see it as he's going to have to throw the ball, but then we're going to have to put some pressure on him. We've sat here and we've talked about it today. We've talked about it a number of times in the past, but put some pressure on him. Nick is right. He says we get 3 interceptions. I could see, Nick, I can agree with you. I'd like to see some turnovers because I believe they're going to have to throw the ball to try and win this game.
What about you, Cody? Can he get it done?
No.
Direct and to the point.
He's not listen, he's not a bad quarterback. This guy is an MVP, but they have a bad offensive line and they don't have enough weapons around them.
Right.
And I mean, before Ridley, you lose your number 1 receiver and, Julio isn't there anymore. I think there isn't enough around him to help him get it done. It's not a quarterback-centric offense like a Josh Allen where you can take off and run. He's a pocket passer, and that doesn't have enough the guys to throw to. So, unfortunately for them, it's just not enough, and it won't be enough this week.
I like it. I pretty much agree right with you. He doesn't have the physical abilities to get it done on his own. No knock on his career. Great quarterback, excellent quarterback. Like you said, MVP.
Yeah.
But at this stage where that team is in no man's land, they have a new coach, but they don't. Listen, Kyle Pitts is an amazing talent. He's a generational talent at tight end, but to draft him that high when you have so many holes on your team. I mean, I get it. You didn't expect Ridley to kind of bounce on you midway through the season, but that being said, I mean, their offensive line has been bad for years. They knew that Matt Ryan's clock is expiring, and this is a team where if they don't think about drafting a quarterback soon, they're going to be, they're not going to be 7 and whatever. They're going to be 3-win team, 4-win team. So we'll see how that plays out. Atlanta's always a team I kind of liked. Obviously in that Super Bowl, we're all rooting for them, and we're very disappointed how it turned out. Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. Herm, give me your matchup of the game.
Well, it's going to be the matchup that is the shutdown. Cody hit it best. Cordell Patterson is the person who scored. He's got 11 touchdowns. So whatever role he's playing, because they run him as a running back, they use him as a wide receiver. He does jet sweeps. I think our focus defensively, I mean, Pitts is there. We've talked about that. But as he said, he scored 1 touchdown. The other guy's got 11. That's who I'm going. That would be my the focus. If I'm Leslie Frazier and McDermott, my focus would be to shut him down. You shut him down, and I think right there you've pulled the plug on that offense. So that would be my matchup as our defense to shut down Cordell Patterson.
Well said. I like where you're going there. Cody, what's your matchup of the game?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking too. Kyle Pitts will get some yards, but I don't see they don't have enough. So it's tough for me to like pick an individual matchup there on their offense and think that they're, like it's so dire. I don't see that. This is a bad offensive line for the Falcons, so I'm throwing these guys under the bus on the defensive line and rushing 4. Maybe it's a get right game.
Yeah,
I'll go there.
that would be nice.
One could only hope. I'm going to go with. I really believe they'll put a nickel on Pitts, so I'm going to go with either Johnson or Neal versus Pitts. I liked when Saran Neal came on the field against Travis Kelce and really beat him up at the line of scrimmage, and I thought a lot of the timing was thrown off because of that. So however they go, I think I think I agree with Herm probably the most. I think if you shut down Cordell Patterson and you make them beat you through the air, vertically, I think we have a great shot. So I'm with you. I think that's the most important, but I'm curious to see how we match up against an elite level tight end and if we can continue that trend.
Yeah.
Herm, I'll turn it over to you. What's your stat of the game?
Stat of the game is and I'm going to go with Josh, that if Josh can have a clean game, if he can throw for 3 touchdowns, 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, we win this game.
No, I'll take that all day. Cody, what's your stat of the game?
I think Josh Allen will go off. This is not a good Falcons defense. They have maybe 2 or 3 players on that team that I would even really consider good. The linebacker, Jones, he's fun to watch. But besides that, I'm looking for Singletary to have another big game.
It would be nice.
It would be nice to see a 100-yard rusher.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Singletary to break 100 yards.
Okay.
All right.
I like that, Cody.
Yeah.
I think he's earned it. So let's manufacture it for him. My stat of the game is 75% red zone touchdown percentage.
What?
I want to will. I really want to will that. That I mean, it's gotten better. But again, it showed its ugly head where you say all the time we should have beat them 48 to 21.
You don't want to hear from me during the game. That's what you're telling me, right?
No, I do want to hear from you, but I want to hear that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
17 weeks in, you got what you wanted.
It's tough when you wait to get all your penalties till you get in the red zone.
Right? I know. All your penalties and all your mistakes.
Yeah. That's true.
And then moving on to our key to victory. Herm, why don't you start us off there?
Key to victory is no turnovers or minimize the turnovers. I'll say no turnovers. Forget about minimizing. No turnovers and minimize penalties, as Cody just said. So forget, especially in the red zone. How about that one? Especially in the red zone. That's my key to victory for the Bills.
I like it. Cody, key to victory.
I've done this too many times, but again, you're a better team than they are. And the only way to keep a bad team in a game is turnovers. So I think you win a turnover battle in this game, you win the game.
Yeah. I mean, the odds are definitely in your favor for sure. For me, it's the same as last week. Score early, make the team one-dimensional. I think that's really the Bills' MO. If we can score early like we did last season and force these teams to throw on this, like Herm has always mentioned, this top flight number 1 pass rated defense, I think good things happen. I think that's where you get your turnovers. I think that's where you force teams to make mistakes. And scoring early and allowing the Bills to rely on the run a little bit more, I think we can nail all three of our keys of victories in one fellow sweep if we just get on the board early.
Yeah.
And before we get to the forecast, Herm, how does this play out? What's your score prediction?
Well, I thought about this, that every week I've seen like I've picked the Bills, and people would think that I'm biased for some reason. So I'm not going to go against that this week either.
This is not the week for that.
This is not the week for that.
I was wondering where that was going.
You're right, Cody. Buffalo 35, Falcons 14.
Cody.
Yeah, we're pretty close. 35-10.
Okay.
48-17. Not even
48. Oh, you going where I wanted to go? Huh?
we're gonna get that game.
I think I'd like to see Trubisky for at least half the fourth.
Yeah, we've seen that before. That was actually an early season. I think it was for the Washington game where we got bailed out by that interception that gave us that early Mitch Trubisky time. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty concise. Even Kenny's got 34-9, Nick's got 38-13.
Okay, all right.
I don't really foresee this team giving us a letdown. Is it going to be a perfect game? Probably not. I'm kind of banking on it, but I think even an average game, this team gets it done and covers the spread. I think, what is it, 14 points now?
I was gonna ask you. I didn't even look at the spread yet.
14 and a half this morning.
I think that's easily eclipsed.
By the half.
Yeah, let's yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, definitely. I hope so, guys.
We'll get into our 5-day forecast. Last week we weren't able to convene, so I don't have those stats for us. But for this week, Monday, Herm, let's start with you. Allen with at least 6 rushing attempts.
Oh, clear.
Cody?
Yeah, clear. I think he had double digits against the Patriots, and we're showing that him running the football is helping us big time. Yeah, clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be silly because I'm going to disagree, only because I think what I've noticed is when it's crunch time, you see Allen running a lot more. I feel like they call a lot more run plays. I think he's more willing to really take that short read, and if he doesn't see it go, I think with the lack of pass rush, I think he's going to play a little safer. So I'm going to go cloudy, although I'm kind of going against my better judgment because, like we said last week, there's a hell of a lot of running from Josh Allen. I didn't hear anyone complain about it.
Yeah,
which is good. All right, so Tuesday, Bates starts at guard. I know we talked about this a lot, but let's co-sign it. Herm, what do you think?
I think clear, because I don't think Feliciano is going to be ready.
Yeah. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Herm. I think, like I said earlier, we'll see both of them in this game, I think, but I think Bates gets to start.
Okay.
I agree. I actually thought that he was going to get the start last week. I just had a weird feeling that they'd kind of shuffle it up, and he's we've seen him come in as the extra offensive lineman, so I thought it was a good showing, and he's definitely the flavor of the month, or flavor of the week at least. So I think the fans will expect it at least. Wednesday, Herm, Diggs has at least 100 receiving yards.
I guess I'm going to go clear. He's due to bust that century mark. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. He hasn't had any huge games, but his stats are up there. I mean, it's not last year, but he is sneaky.
I think he'll get a big one. I think he'll get a big one in there this week. Yeah.
What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I'm kind of going with Herm all the way here. He's due. It seems to be like an 8 for 85 every week, right?
Right, you're right.
6 for 75, something like that.
Yeah. But this is a bad Falcons secondary. Yeah, I want to go clear. Let's give it to him.
I'm going to go clear as well, and I think we see one of our few deep shots that connect. I'm looking to see for one of those 60+ yard touchdowns where he's either deep post or 9 route down the sideline, something like that. So I think we're going to see what. Yeah, exactly. Set the tone there.
Yeah.
All right, Thursday. Will Pitts double his touchdown score or his touchdown numbers by scoring at least one, Herm?
I think I may go clear there.
How about you, Cody?
I'm going to go cloudy. He's only got one. So the chances are on my side. I'm benching him in fantasy, so he better.
There you go.
Championship week.
I was gonna say you made it this far. It's looking good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go cloudy as well. Not only because of that, I think he's more due because of the fact he only has one. But
that's what I'm feeling. I feel he's due.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with cloudy. What were you saying, Herm?
Like a baseball player. It hasn't had a hit in a while.
Yeah. I think so, but I just think we're too good at defending the tight ends. And when you don't have any wide receivers to kind of supplement it, you can kind of focus your firepower there. And lastly, Friday, Herm, McKenzie outsnaps Beasley.
No, cloudy.
What do you think, Cody?
Do they ease Beasley back in? Probably not. Cloudy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I put that in there as more the knee jerk because that's what everyone wants to see nowadays.
People want. That's what the people want.
I think you're going to see them on the field more so together than we have seen in past. But hopefully they both have their own little packages. Because again, like we mentioned all throughout the show, they do two different things. They do different things differently. And yeah, Jason, you might be onto something.
Partly cloudy. I like that one.
We'll go with a 50-50 split.
Yeah. How come we can't do partly cloudy?
we got to be concise here.
Yeah, come on. Can't play both sides.
We will let the real weatherman play both sides when it comes down to it. Herm, closing comments before we get out of here.
Okay, closing comments on the last day of the year, 2021. I think the Bills, I truly feel in my heart right now we're on an upswing. And as we've talked about, I think since the second half of the Buck game, which we were playing a formidable opponent in their arena, and we came back and had an opportunity to win the game, but also we just showed the world champions who they are right now, and the television audience, all the Bills naysayers that we weren't gone, we're still here. And then we came back at Carolina last week in New England, dominated that game for all intents and purposes. And this is a great time of year to be on the upswing. I think right now we're ready to roll, pick up this win, not looking ahead, but I am. This win on Sunday. The following week, we're in the playoffs, and then let's start doing our thing. I'm going to give out Trav, a shout out to Nick, our buddy Nick. Nick texted me and said he was pouring a beer as we start this. Nick, so you got a shout out here, buddy.
Cheers, Nick.
I'll be having mine in a moment. So anyway, go Bills. I'm looking forward to a win on Sunday.
Cody, closing comments.
Yeah, are you drinking and podcasting?
That's it. Hey, man, it's New Year's. I had a New Year's beer and a Christmas Eve beer. Back to back.
No, I'm not going to get into some real, these last 2 weeks we have our inferior opponents. You just got to show up and play the way you're supposed to play, and you'll win the games. And then we can worry about who we're playing in the playoffs. So really just show up, take care of business, and go get in the playoffs. Hopefully we get a Ravens loss or something like that, and we can get it this week. Other than that, Happy New Year, and hopefully we'll all be happy campers on Sunday.
That's right.
Yeah. Go and take care of business. I mean, get hot, do it the right way, look good doing it, and roll into the playoffs with the team playing its best ball.
Yeah.
You don't got to hype it up any more than it already is. I think the players know. Fans, enjoy the last 2 weeks. Just remember, once you get in the playoffs, it doesn't matter how it looks. Just get it done.
That's right.
It really, at that point,
Mhm.
you pretty much know who you are, and if we can get in there on the upswing, that would be great. And I guess lastly, the only thing I want to say was, there was an influence in my life for my entire life. I mean, the games have been coming out ever since I was born. We lost John Madden.
Yeah.
Just another one of the NFL's truly iconic just people. His or what was it, the show that came out just days prior, they reran it when he passed away. It was a great watch, and like I said, been playing Madden pretty much my whole life, and to me, Pat Summerall and John Madden is what narrated my life as a child watching football. And, it's sad to see him go, but he'll surely be remembered.
Yeah. And see, I can say I got to watch him coach.
There you go.
You guys weren't on the planet.
I only heard about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
It was like the 70s.
Yeah. Well, they won.
79 was probably the last year he coached.
They won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
There you go. Goes out like a champ.
Yeah, definitely. So no, he definitely was from coaching to broadcasting to Madden. So yeah, he constantly evolved, but he was a great guy, enjoyable.
Yeah.
And wouldn't fly. Remember, he took a bus around that that custom made bus. Yeah. So anyway, guys, Happy New Year to both of you guys and your families and everybody else, all the others who joined us. We're not gone because we will be back for
That's
the
right.
playoffs. But Happy New Year and stay safe.
Yeah. Happy New Year's, everybody. Like Herm said, thanks for joining us. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.